built, but it was built when we were in school there, or maybe, I think even before that. Okay. I contacted him because last Tuesday I went in front of the county commissioners and told them at last week's city council meeting that there was a positive comment made about interest in maybe trying to find some entity to evaluate, to assess it, and maybe pick it up on the surplus market. And they said that if I could find somebody that could do the work, that they would be for it. They would be for letting whoever renovate the building. Okay, so I wrote this letter to my brother, and then it just so happens I have a nephew who, that's what he does. He renovates old buildings, and he's been doing it down around Reedsport and Coos Bay. So I contacted him, and I want to read you the letter I wrote to him, okay? Dear Rob, hello Rob. This building, I sent him pictures of the building, okay? Of the old PUD building. This building will soon be demolished to make a parking lot for Klickitat County. It currently houses various county offices, but will soon be empty when the offices are moved to a new county services building. I'm in discussion with the county asking them to surplus the building and let the public have a chance to acquire it. Our town needs commercial space to grow more opportunity for the town. I will be on the Goldendale City Council agenda on Monday the 20th at 7 p.m. asking them to work with the county to surplus the property. The county commissioners have already said if there is anyone interested in it that they will go ahead and surplus the building. There are some issues like the roof and asbestos, typical for these older buildings. And I told him he can watch the Zoom broadcast tonight. It gave him the number if he cares to listen in. Then I said, I hate to see 14,400 square feet disappear due to lack of interest. If the building isn't salvageable, the lot could house a new building. Hopefully, we can get it on the market and give Goldendale some much needed development. Now, we don't have a lot of buildings in Goldendale that can house new businesses. And 14,400 square feet to the right person, like if you can go, I don't have any handouts for you, but with the internet and the computer, do a search for Rob Crocker, R-O-B-B, C-R-O-C-K-E-R, Reedsport, Oregon, Coos Bay. And you will go in there and you'll find several newspaper articles showing Rob's company the projects that they have taken on for downtown Coos Bay. They're literally renovating 5, 6, 7 different old buildings. One of them's a 15-story hotel built in the early 20s that they're renovating and turning it into over 50 apartments. Another building is an old bank that they're turning into housing. That's their goal, is to help rural communities. And so consequently, did I finish that? Yeah, I did. Okay. So where we stand now is that it's going to be torn down. And the main reason that the commissioners indicated, the main reason that they have to tear it down is because the city has a stipulation. Parking.
Yes.
So if we have a company like Rob Crocker, and his company's name right now is Opportas, O-P-P-O-R-T-A-S Capital. They restore and remodel old buildings, working on the old hotel. The old hotel was, no wait, he was in the 20s, but there's another building there they're working on, built in 1915. So that you know that they've run across all sorts of problems. Yeah. And they overcome them. And he wrote, I thought, okay, there's no chance in heck he's ever going to answer me back, because he's a busy man. He does a lot of this stuff. He did a lot of it for Oregon City. You'll find out when you go, if you go to Rob Crocker, Reeds Ford, Oregon, Coos Bay, there's other articles in there that indicate other projects that they have taken on. So there you have an example of somebody, and he has local roots here in Goldendale. His grandfather was Stanley Crocker, and his grandmother was my mother. So here you have somebody who has a proven record of rehabilitating rundown public buildings, that is willing to take his time and come and assess it and possibly start a project to rejuvenate it. But it's got to be, in order for him to do that, it's got to be available to him on the surplus market. And so that means if the city could readjust their demands for parking, then the county would go ahead and put it up for surplus and let people like Rob take a look at it. Rob isn't the only one that might take a look at it, but he's shown an interest. He says, I'm certainly interested. He's interested in learning more. So basically, we're at a point to where if we don't work with the county commissioners to get it put on the surplus market, it's going to be knocked down with the wrecking ball. And people like Rob Crocker can solve the problem. So basically what we got to do is send a letter to the county commissioners asking them to go ahead and put it on the surplus market for 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it takes, and let people come and assess it and decide whether or not they want to invest. I know one of the arguments is, oh, we gave that property over there at this nursing home away, and we don't want to do that again, put money in some. No, the county isn't going to be putting any money into this project. What if they don't surplus it, they're going to have a demolition cost of maybe what, $250,000 to tear that down.
Good chance of it.
Whereas here we have a company that's willing to look at it and maybe rejuvenate it, and we can't do it unless we make the right steps. We got a lot of parking, and knowing Rob, he already mentioned the parking. You know, my brother did anyway. So consequently, we're at a point where you as a council are the ones that are going to determine a big part of the future of Goldendale. You don't get any tax money off a piece of concrete in a parking lot. You know, you're going to get tax money off this building if it's rejuvenated, and you're going to get a place for, depending on what Crocker's business wants to do with it, maybe housing, maybe commercial, but they got to be able to take a look at it and assess it. So that's what I'm asking you guys to do tonight, is go talk to the commissioners, you send them a letter, say, put the brakes on your plans, we got a new one. We want to put it out there on the surplus market and get bids from people like Rob Crocker.
Larry, is there anything that you can do to talk to the commissioners, to figure out what we could do if that's...
I would probably talk to Gordy Kelsey first.
Okay. I think it'd be worth at least contacting them to see what we need to do if we can do anything.
Well, one, Mayor, I'd like to make it, Ken, it was brought up at the last meeting, black mold. Black mold is in that building.
How bad is it? Does
I
anybody
don't
know
know
how bad it is? And why is it there? If they knew it was there, why wasn't it
Well, I
abandoned?
have no idea.
Yeah, see, that bothers me too.
Okay,
Who's
well,
been
the county
watching that
The
place?
county commissioner mentioned that.
Yeah, Well, yeah,
So I have no idea, but
There's probably
that's a
black mold that
concern you
can't
have to
be-
have.
Huh?
That's a concern you have to have, that there's black mold in there.
Well, I'm sure Rob Crocker runs across it all the time. They have ways of abating it.
Well, you didn't
It's-
bring it up, so I just wanted to.
Oh, I didn't bring it up. Yeah, that's right, I didn't bring it up this
Okay,
time.
okay.
But black mold is an issue, and Rob Crocker would know what to do with it. His company does, I'm sure they deal with it all the time.
So, go ahead.
The commissioners have painted as a darker picture of that building as possible to help justify tearing it down, no doubt. If it's as bad as it is, how come they've got personnel in it still now? I mean, you know, and I think their plan has been in place for a long time to probably tear it down. So they're somewhat responsible for the lack of maintenance themselves.
It's their
Which, you know, pointing fingers here is not going to accomplish anything. But the city has kicked the can down the road for so long, it don't even look like a can anymore, regarding community center, and the community center, incubator buildings for businesses. We've talked those to death. And there's no doubt the building has a lot of potential. It does. What's inside? It's still structurally sound. And it's no different, and in no different shape than every building on Main Street that are occupied. So, again, I think Ken's got a very viable idea here. And the least I think we should do is try to buy some time. I mean, he's got some very respectable people and certified people that are willing to take a look at it, that are in the business.
And they got the capital to do it too.
And so, you know, looking at it from a different angle, I don't think it would hurt a bit. And like I say, all we have to do is buy some time.
Have it assessed and, you know, go ahead and go forward with it. It just really bothers me that they just nonchalantly just write it off as a done deal, you know?
Well, that's how big government works, Kenny.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it kind of sent up red flags for me. It looks like a doggone good solid building to me, and sure there's some other problems with it, but if somebody like Rod Crocker is willing to come and look at it and say that he's interested after knowing that it has those problems, and I encourage you to go look him up on the internet and see what he does.
Absolutely.
So, don't wait too long, because I'm pretty sure I know how the county commissioners work. They're gonna get that Gordon Kelsey, they're gonna propose that they tear it down.
Most likely.
And, you know, and that's gonna cost them,
So I don't want to second guess county commissioners' decisions. I know Gordy does great work, but, you know, because of the city's requirements to need additional parking, you know, maybe that did push a certain decision. So I just would suggest that we look into alternatives for parking, that we let the county commissioners know that we're willing to work with them if they want to take a second look at this, and we need more time to do so. But also it is their building, so we can't force anything, but definitely just
but we can raise
get the
it.
message to them that we can work with them if that's something that they want to pursue.
That's the least we can do.
One of the things, whenever the plan was put out that they were going to build a county service center, Carl Enyart was director of public works, and because of this restrictions on parking for a building to be able to do that, and the fact that they were building it already in the biggest parking lot in town, which created the problem.
Sure.
He went through and figured out every possible place that we could get the number that were being displaced, so that we would not have a crowded downtown like we already have. I probably hear more about the problems with parking in Goldendale than most anything else.
And then,
But the thing is, I think we need to talk to them, to see if for some reason there's even a hint. But at the same time, I for sure don't want us to get caught up in an extremely expensive assessment and use city funds to assess a county building is possibly.
No.
No, I don't think
Well,
we should.
certainly the
City
code
funds.
has to be
Private
met for
funds.
parking. If we can't meet parking code, then
But that's it.
we don't have any
That's
other
a serious
solution.
issue.
And maybe the trade-off was, in order to meet parking code, we need the space or build a parking
Well, that
structure.
was
And the cost of a
figured in.
parking structure would be.
And those two buildings, the footprints of those for parking was how Carl got to the acceptable number. And I remember those discussions, because it was really hard to find enough parking.
And I guess the last thing I'd want to say is if this goes further, we find a parking solution, the building may stay, just some way to make sure that this doesn't end up being a purchased building privately that sits there for 5, 10, 20 years with no
Yes.
activity. So there's
You have
got to
the
be some.
power to make a
Oh,
contract.
I'm sorry, I was still speaking. Sorry. We got to make sure that we have some way to ensure that there's productive activity and that it's put back in use in the near term, not just sit there for long term.
Exactly, and that would be dealing with the county's responsibilities as well. Yes,
My only concern with this is, it's not our building, and we definitely don't want to put money into that building, because if we're gonna do that, we have buildings of our own that need to be retrofitted, as the one we sit here, that don't have safety, different safety items already. So I think for us to go to somebody else's house and say, this is what you need to do with your house, is definitely big government at work. Whether it be them or us doing it, we cannot be telling someone else how to do, what to do with their own property. I think if there are investors or people interested in retrofitting that facility, then they can go to the property owner and convince them, not us.
right.
If the commissioners are interested in making it a historical building, then they can apply for that process. We certainly are not going to apply for that process for them, or take any moves to make that.
We couldn't afford it.
We can let them know that we would be willing to work with them on the parking situation. But I would also, if that's what we're gonna do, I'd like to have that discussion be invite the business owners on Main Street
Yeah.
to see what they have to say about the lack of parking, and those decisions being made that may affect those businesses. So we can talk about bringing future business in, and that same discussion might talk about killing the small businesses that we already have. So I would just be cautious about doing anything and letting those people interested in retrofitting it talk to the owners. I mean, I certainly wouldn't go talk to my neighbor about somebody else's house. Go talk to the people that are involved.
May I speak? You misconstrued my message, okay? It won't be city money, no city money will be put, it'll be private money. You put it on the surplus market, somebody picks it up, just like over here at the old nursing home. That's gonna be houses and apartments. It's COVID kind of put a hold on everything, I think. But, you know, I was challenged by the commissioners to find, if I could find somebody that would do the job. I found somebody. And they need a chance to get in there and get it on the surplus market and take it from there. If they want it. Now, if they don't want it, nobody wants it, then the county gets it and they get to tear it down, and we got all sorts of parking down there. No room for economic growth, just a parking lot. It ain't gonna bring any taxes, property taxes. So,
So I guess,
I see, the only incumbents the city has here is what we've already talked about, and that's talking with the commissioners and maybe renegotiating or finding adequate parking some way else, or whatever, just negotiating with the commissions. And to buy a little time. Again, like Kenny said, this is no burden on the city. No financial burden at all.
Shouldn't be. But we need to, I really value working with the county on a lot of things. If we have a chance to have a conversation with them through a letter or through a visit with them, we'll do that, no question about it.
Got nothing to lose.
But
get on the docket.
I don't, have a whole lot of hope only because of the issue with the nursing home and what we ran into there. The cost of getting that torn down was astounding.
How much was it, if you don't mind me
More
asking?
than $250,000.
Yeah, well, that's what the county's gonna pay, we'll probably maybe pay more than that for taking down the PUD building.
Yeah, with asbestos and mold and a number of other issues.
Mayor, if I may, I'd motion that we let the county commissioners know that we're willing to work with them on the parking,
That's it.
receive an alternative parking solution, and give them time to look into other options if they would like. Does that sound reasonable?
Can the council concur with that?
Well, would you be willing to continue to, I don't know, be a liaison with the county?
Sure.
Because you're the one that has presented.
I'll go talk
these
to them
particular
tomorrow.
People and companies.
Yeah, I'll tell them that they may be getting the city on the docket to talk about it. Don't you guys want to go and just get on the docket and tell them that you're ready to?
Yeah, I'd rather have Larry do that, that's his job. I don't want him off the hook so easy letting other people do his job. But we do have a motion on the table, if anyone's
Right,
willing to
for sure.
second that, we can.
Can I have one question about it, just so I understand everything, because I wasn't here for, the beginnings of that. The deal was, there was a parking lot where the new building is now.
Mhm.
They wanted to put a building there. So the deal was, okay, put a building there, we're gonna turn your old building into a parking lot to make up for that.
Yeah.
That was the deal that was made
That's
with
what we
them.
agreed to.
Pretty much.
So now, we're saying, okay, potentially, well, you guys can sell that building and we can figure out something else with the parking? Or I don't understand.
I think they figure something else with the
Yeah.
parking, because the parking's still an issue, and the parking is still needed for small businesses on Main Street.
So the only thing we would have to say about it is, well, we might be flexible on the parking thing if you,
Well, they still have to find a parking solution that meets code.
right,
So if they can find a parking solution that meets code, that opens up alternatives, if that's something that they want to
if
pursue.
that's something but it's not like we're demanding
No,
anything.
no, we just.
They made it sound like you guys were the roadblock. And if you haven't noticed, pardon me for interrupting, but if you haven't noticed, they've been making parking around all over the place. Right across the street from the jail, they're gonna knock down these buildings over here on the corner of Grant and Court. That's all gonna be parking. They got the parking in front of the courthouse. And there will still be parking around the old PUD building. It's not like we're getting rid of all the parking. We're saving the building, we're keeping Goldendale viable, we're giving businesses a chance to maybe take root and grow. But, hey,
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it's worth investigating,
I'll
give the
second.
county the opportunity to.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, sir.
It's been moved and seconded. Can you repeat the motion?
Just to notify the county that we're willing to work with them on alternative parking solutions that meet code and give them time if they want it.
Okay.
perfect,
If
thank
they
you.
so wish.
And we'll have Larry as liaison and messenger.
Messenger. It's been moved and seconded to contact the county commissioners and the discussion of the buildings to be torn down because of need for parking and our own city parking regulation. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's see what we can do.
Well, the motion should be to put the building up for surplus. That's what you need, so people can come in and look at it.
But that's,
Our issue is the parking, it's the
Yeah.
county's decision. You have to,
not our building.
you'll have to work with the county on what they want to do with their building.
Yeah.
We can't,
And
Dictate
surplus will be a
them.
part of that.
but we
discussion.
can remove, not remove, we can work with them on the challenge of parking so that they can potentially have other options.
And in the course of the discussions, this will come up.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
So they can't use us as an excuse anymore. If we're the excuse, we're not the excuse.
Good, let them know that, and then they'll do what they need to do, I guess. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you,
Try to
Ken.
keep them informed of progress. And you'll be talking to them tomorrow?
Well, I don't know, I'll go run it by them, tell them what we talked about tonight, that you guys are gonna be getting in touch with them.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going now to department reports, and I had a visit with Noel Hom this afternoon, and they have training, a particular training on the pack, the medical pack that was purchased for the fire department several months ago. But they're having specific training on that, using that particular piece of equipment, and so the fire department's not going to be represented tonight. So we'll go to our police department and our police chief of police, Jay Hunslaker.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, tonight I'd like to talk about a little bit more about the threats that we've had recently at the school. Phil had reached out to me to put out a little bit more information to the council and stuff in an open city meeting, just to give you more of an idea of what's going on. I'm not going to go into particulars. I'm not going to mention any names, of course, because some of these are juvenile. But anyways, I'd like just to go over that. And if any of you have any questions during the presentation, let me know, okay? So let's go back to November 28th of this year. Officer Mike Stell just received a call about 8:56 p.m. and it was a report of text messages being sent with threatening messages to shoot up the school, meaning the school here, the Goldendale High School. Once that call came in, of course, the officer responded. He talked with all witnesses, and I think we've already covered that in one other meeting. But the suspect juvenile and the parents are cooperating, and through the investigations, they found that the juvenile had no access to any firearms at the home. And they're in full cooperation, according to the officer that looked into the matter and investigated, talking with the two girls that were receiving the text messages because they were friends of the suspect. And then all these messages started coming out. He made the claim, he admitted to making them. He said, I wasn't serious, you know, I was just shooting off at the mouth, basically. So looking into this individual, one of the first things that we did and stuff is looking at, you know, he had no history with any reports with the police department. If you bring that individual's name into our reporting system, that case is the only one that's going to pop up. He's had no contact with police as far as it's been documented, nor have we ever heard of him having any problems. Talking with the school, he engages with his teachers. He's not socially distanced or withdrawn. He has no disciplinary file at the school, so there's not a history here with this young man. But the school, following their standard protocol, removed the student from the school, which removes the threat, even though the threat was found not credible, right, as far as he did make the threat, but we found no evidence that he had a plan, no written documents showing a plan, no odd behavior or recent events to cause somebody to be extremely angry or, you know, where they take it out on the school. Following the protocol that the school has, they had what they call a threat assessment meeting. They requested the case officer to be present. Well, the case officer, Officer Stelgis, and myself attended that meeting on December 8th. In that room was school personnel, a lot of them being the teachers that this student has. And a lot of them were shocked once they learned what had happened and what the police were investigating. They were pretty shocked. They said, that's not him, you know, that makes no sense. So anyways, the school went through their threat assessment. They have their own form. It's a protocol they follow. We don't get those. We can get information about them. That's a document they keep in-house, right? And they had one person that's trained on that facilitated the entire meeting, along with Mr. Westerman, the principal, and ourselves, and other teachers on this. So what they're finding is, if there's anything yet, I haven't been contacted on that. But until the school's assessment restrictions or whatever they have on the child, he won't be able to return to school until certain criteria is met. What that is, I don't know. So he's now learning, I guess, from Zoom. So that's no longer there. No information was found to show that the threat was real, no evidence in the document. You have any questions on this, this case that happened on November 28th? Yeah, we could find nothing, so that's why we did not find it credible. This person has no history, he's engaging, he's not withdrawn. The two persons that he was talking to were friends of his, so I don't know. But to err on the side of caution, they did. They removed him from the school, right, until further notice.
So who manages that case or situation at the school going forward? Is that?
That'd be the principal and the superintendent, I would believe, as far as, the threat assessment and what else goes from there. I'll reach out to Mr. Westman and find out, what's going on, right? And is there any information that I can pass on, I'll definitely do it, but I'll ask for him. But any documents can't leave the school per their protocol, is what we're understanding.
Thank you, Chief, on this.
Okay, so let's go to last Friday, December 17th, about 5:46 a.m. Mr. Westerman reported a threat to shoot up GHS. Was found on TikTok, which is a social media platform. So when that was reported, dispatch had contacted Sergeant Lucatero, who was on call, and then in turn he contacted me. I want to make sure you respond when Officer Kelsey Rooks come on duty. I also had her go straight to the school. I was getting in the process of contacting Mr. Westerman when my phone rang, and it was Principal Westerman. He explained to me what was going on. He gave me a little bit of information about the threat, of what he could describe, and I'm going to pass along a sheet here in a little bit that's going to show you what the message looked like on TikTok, right? And you really can't read it on Mr. Westerman's phone because it was forwarded to him from a staff member, but on the back here, I typed out what the message says, so you can read that, okay? Anyways, as soon as that had happened, he asked me at the end of our conversations, what are your suggestions, if any? I talked with him a bit. I said, well, I find it odd that somebody would post something to tip off everybody in the world in social media that there's going to be a shooting. Active shooters don't do that. I said, but that doesn't mean that's gospel. Right? I said, if we're going to err on the side of safety. My suggestion to the school is shut them down. Right? And so this was at a point where no students were coming to the school. It was still early. Principal Westerman consulted with the superintendent, and they decided they were going to shut the schools down, just give them the day, right? Then that makes the school safe, or the students safe for this threat. So once the officers got on scene and they started investigating it, it was about 45 minutes later into the investigation that as Mr. Westerman and Officer Rooks were searching social media platforms and stuff, looking for anything that they possibly find, is when Officer Rooks located a news alert from Fox 17 out of Salt Lake City involving this TikTok threat to schools, right? Everything we found and the information was, especially some of the news information, and a posted letter from a principal in a school in a district in Utah, it generated somewhere in Utah. And then this message went nationwide, right? Once, of course, it got to Goldendale, started circulating, right? And then a student contacts the parents and this is what's on TikTok, and then it gets, eventually gets to Westerman, and now the police are called and we're involved. But it specifically says in it, and you'll read, GHS. Okay, so during the investigation, when they learned that, Sergeant Lucatero made checks online. I'm kind of reading my notes here. For school district to look for schools with the GHS moniker for the name of their school. 2 were found in a district, school district in Utah. One of them, he went to both websites for those schools. One had nothing posted. The second one he checked on had a posted letter from the principal of the social media post, and it's from a ghost account on TikTok, meaning it's identifiable. You don't know where it comes from. That infers the threat in a couple days for GHS. No specific info was posted as it being that school that this principal was from. And the principal also notes that there were multiple schools in Utah that have the GHS name initials. No evidence was found that the threat was specific to the Goldendale High School. Right, so with the information from TikTok that we found and the posted letter from the principal, we're pretty sure that, and according to the news release on that, is it's possibly connections to this TikTok message would be Utah, Colorado, and California. But they are investigating that down there. Okay, so real quick, I want to take time at this here to stop talking. I'm going to let each of you look at it. When you look at this picture here, this is the picture on the phone of Mr. Westerman's phone that he got forwarded the TikTok message, right? This, you'll see up here, it's blocked with a bar, but there's like scribbling lines. If somebody did something on the computer to scribble some things and stuff, but that is verbatim the message that was sent nationwide. And that scribble mark, so there's no alteration to this that you find on the website or TikTok that was sent out. Everybody got the same exact message. Nothing changed. So, but again, on the back you can read exactly what it says. Okay. So, as that goes around, what I'll say, in both events, okay, that were so close together, the ultimate goal is to make the kids safe from those threats, those specific threats, right? And by one that happened here in November, that student was removed from the school and is not allowed to come back until he meets further requirements based on from the school. And then the other one is based on evidence that we found that it didn't generate here in the state of Washington. And GHS, nothing we found was specific to our high school. So,
Thank you, Chief. Very thorough.
anybody have any questions for me? Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. So I know we talked about earlier a little bit, and so my question, I have two questions, is what would you classify our police department's relationship with the school and the school administration is? Through this or through any other event?
We have a good working relationship with the school. Mr. Westerman, specifically on both these threats, because the first one where it happened occurred with the student being here is a student of the high school. And then, of course, the second threat, which generated on TikTok out of Utah, it had the initials in the message as you read GHS. That was the concern. So, and prior, like I said, prior to us finding out what this came from, where this came from or generated, that's when the decision was made by Westerman, and my suggestion is shut them down, shut the school down.
And you said he called you, they have direct access to you 24/7?
All the principals have direct access to the police department and me.
Okay, and so then the other question is, sorry, two more. So we always hear it takes a community to raise a child. Would you say that our community, with the one child that was involved, our community, the parents, the child, the friends, the teachers, the police department, as a community, are we doing things right?
In this incident, with these parents are 100% on board and cooperating. So yes, I think we are on board with what we're doing. Understand too, if we establish probable cause on anything, any crime, probable cause, and that's what I need. If we got probable cause, that person's going to jail. regardless, especially under these circumstances. This is a very serious situation. If we had anything to indicate this threat was real, that child would have been leaving with us. So, but no, I think that under these, they're doing good. Well, in my press release to the, on the TikTok one, I put in an ad thing there to really encourage parents, watch your kids on social media, right? Because a lot of times, I'm sure a lot of kids got this, but they never said anything, right? So, well, talk to your kids, encourage them. If you see stuff like this, let somebody know. And some stepped up. That first incident in November, one of the girls went to the mother and said, this ain't right? And then we got called in. And of course, other students here showed the parents, and then it came down and it got to Westminster, here we go. So, but yes, I think we're doing things right, but I encourage if anything suspicious comes up, you know, contact us. Even if it's, well, I'm not quite sure, let us look into it. You know, it doesn't hurt.
And I think on the flip side, you know, you said the family is cooperating. The child obviously spoke out of turn and was venting, ranting, or just saying inappropriate things.
That's
he
what
didn't
we're
mean to.
understanding, because he's talking with two friends, and the conversation was good, and then all of a sudden it went to this, and they didn't think he was, I'm not gonna say some of the stuff they said, but was just blowing steam, but it's completely out of character. I'm going on what facts we can find, and we're not finding it on this kid, that it was gonna be real. He admitted to doing it, and he genuinely, to the officer, says that he was scared and he was sorry. And I understand from the parents that he's not having a nice, good world. Parents have come down on him pretty hard.
I'm sure they'll take care of business.
Yes, I believe so.
And so I think that the bottom question that most people would have is with the two events. The one is obviously with the child is like a non-issue from my understanding, from what you're saying, is just a kid being a kid. And in previous years, we might have said boys will be boys, but obviously we can't say that no more. But
Not in these days, no.
not in these days. So we have to go through this process, and everything at the end of the day gets cleared up, and then we have this other event. Would you say that with your guys' the police department's relationship with the schools, the parents involved, the community, bottom line is, our schools safe, and is Goldendale a good place to live still?
Goldendale is a good place to live. The schools were made safe on these events, right? I think it is a safe place in Goldendale, but bad things happen all the time that we cannot control. You know, a lot of times if we don't see things, we're reacting to them when we're getting called to it. But yes, I still think Goldendale is a very safe place to live compared to a lot of problems that the metropolis areas are having. And the closer areas that are a little bit bigger than us, not maybe in metropolis, but yeah, we're doing good. We don't have a gang problem. I talked with Phil about it too. I mean, let's just touch on gangs real quick. If we have somebody flying colors or doing the gang sign or something like that, they get our attention and they get it really fast. I mean, we're only limited to what we can do if they haven't committed a crime, right, too much. But we let them know. We know you, we see you, we're watching. So we're very aggressive toward that. My officers are well trained, and it's a terrible thing that we're living in. One of the things that they also found out, I'd like to add to the TikTok thing, is they found out there was some kind of a possible campaign with the kids to try to get the last day before vacation, Christmas vacation, to get it off, right? And how do you do that? But we cannot take the chance to not react to these threats. So that's why we did what we did. And by the time we found this out, Mr. Westerman and the superintendent made the decision they were just going to keep the school closed because it would be too much to try to call everybody back for a half day. Okay.
Thank you. I think our police department is great, and even though we have a small police department, we have the ability to react well and provide all the resources and have a chat with the families, the parents, and for our police chief to actually be involved, where in larger cities, it just gets lost sometimes, so.
My officers know of anything like this, especially threats to a school in this day and age of the active shooters, I'm to be notified. Right? Maybe not the first one to be notify the duty suit, but I better be contacted soon after. Take care of business, then get a hold of supervisors, let them know what's going on. That's all I have for
Any other comments or questions?
TikTok question for you, Jay. I don't know a whole lot about TikTok, I've never been on that, but, so you're telling me is anybody can just go on there and have a venue to make any kind of threats that they want, and the venue that, the TikTok, they have no responsibility in that, like, it might be a legal question,
I think
more
there
to a
is,
lawyer,
there is
but-
community standards on TikTok. So you could go on there, you can make videos of whatever you want, and if it doesn't follow the community guidelines, you can flag it, or they even watch for it and can take the video down. So obviously they didn't see that, or didn't do that.
It didn't happen in
them.
time.
Investigators
Yeah.
are working with TikTok. One thing that I did forget to mention is out of this, it's in our system that the dispatch has put into for us to access our forms for these social media platforms and places like Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all that we can fill out and try to request information. Doesn't come quick, right? And some of these accounts like this one here, they're indicating it's a ghost account. You're not going to be able to identify it. So to me, I think that's wrong of these social media platforms.
Because if a newspaper was to print that, what you handed, was to print that threat in a newspaper, that'd be big trouble for the newspaper to print that. Why is it not the same trouble for that media to print that on their form?
I don't know. I can't answer that. It's a legal question that
Yeah.
attorney, yes, sir.
TikTok is under a lot of scrutiny right now, from the top down,
Right.
because of stuff like this.
Yeah.
Do you know about the TikTok?
Oh, absolutely, it's a sewer,
Uh-huh.
it's a social
Yeah.
media sewer.
And that's the, I don't know, the social media thing, and
It's bad.
sometimes it can be a good thing. We've solved crimes from social media because, you know, especially the younger generation, they can't stop from bragging and brought us right to them, or the video. We've done that too, but it's a problem, and I don't know if it's like legislation that needs to step in and try to make stricter laws and standards for these companies to be able to trace.
That's exactly
And
right.
if you want to TikTok, you got to register and you got an account, and anything that comes from that, do that. But then you got the hackers and stuff. I don't do social media. I stay away from it. But yeah, it's a mess out there. I agree with Councilman Johnston. It is an absolute mess with social media, and these kids are being preyed on at times
Yes,
from that.
yes, they are.
Is that picture?
It's right here.
Oh, okay. I'll get that from you and take that back to the meeting.
Thanks, Chief. Anything
Thank
else
you.
in your report?
No, sir.
Is Doug on the line? Doug Frampton?
No.
Okay.
Busy snow plowing.
Pardon?
He's busy with snow plowing when it's
They're doing a great
necessary.
job. They've really been busy, yeah. We're going now to council business, and the first item is the contract for the prosecuting attorney, and I'll turn it over to Larry Bellamy to do both the first and second parts of council business. Larry?
Okay. First one is an extension of our prosecuting attorney contract with Gwendolyn Grundy. She has served in that capacity several years and is well liked and works well with our police department, and would recommend highly the continued employment of Gwendolyn Grundy as a prosecuting attorney for city of Goldendale. So we would recommend that the contract be adjusted and that it continue for calendar year 2022.
So you want a motion on this?
Yes.
Yes.
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved to authorize the mayor to execute a personal service contract with Gwendolyn Grundy for prosecuting attorney services for the calendar year of 2022. Any further discussions or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. It's unanimous.
Likewise, Mackey Jackson has been providing municipal legal services for the city for over 20 years, and they have extensive municipal experience in other towns and cities around the Yakima Valley. The mayor and I would like to continue that relationship, and they have indicated they need to adjust their hourly rate from $215 to $230 per hour, which is only a 7% increase since their last rate adjustment, which was back in 2019. Again, we would recommend that we continue this relationship as well.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to concur the mayor's choice to continue with Mackey Jackson Bayer for general legal services. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all,
Just one
yes.
question. Do they have anything to do with trying to secure grant monies, writing grants?
No.
Who does that?
Well, I do sometimes. The fire department has done some.
Quite a few.
Our consulting attorney, RH2, on our wastewater treatment plant has helped us with some. The police chief has helped us with some.
Okay, so in other words, a lot of the work that goes into securing grants is being taken care of in-house, basically.
Yes.
It's a lot of work. Yes.
Okay.
If no further questions or comments, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We'll go now to ordinances, and the item there is the second reading of 2022 budget ordinance. This is a document.
Okay, on the second reading of the budget ordinance at the last council meeting of December 6th, we asked the council if they had any changes that they wanted to bring up. I have a budget committee. The recommendation was to continue on and put on for the second reading the 2022 budget. And the one document we added to the budget was the salary structure. And just by way of summary, there were a few minor changes. The salary grid that was passed on to the municipal employees at the last union negotiation was for a 2% increase for their contract in 2022. That 2% increase also was afforded to the non-union employees or the non-represented employees as well. And then there was a request by the fire department to increase some payments to the volunteer fire department officers as well as to the volunteer fire department members. So the salary structure does include a $500 increase to the fire chief's pay, $350 to assistant fire chief, $125 to captains. The training and incident response was raised to $20 for volunteer fire department, or volunteer firefighters. Incident response by the fire chief and assistant fire chief and captains was raised to $25. And that's just per occurrence, it's not per hour. It's just every time they come to respond to an incident, they get $25. And these changes are heartily supported by the mayor. And then last thing that I need to let you know is the uniformed officers' monthly salary grid remains the same as it did for 2021 until the contract is fully settled. We'll talk about that later on. So those were the changes from the first reading to the second reading, and everything is in order. The accounts, the budget balances at the present time, and as Steve indicates, this is a working document, and we will continue to watch it over time and make sure that we stay abreast of any changes that we need to make in the budget document. So I would recommend at this time that we adopt and approve the second reading of the budget for 2022.
Do we have any
So
questions or comments?
Made the motion, so.
So, you said, so
So moved.
we have a second.
Second? Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 1512, which is the budget for the year 2022. All in favor?
Want to ask questions, or?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, Steve, you have.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your sign.
I was going to address this later on when we got down to council business, but now is as good a time as any, because it is the budget. I'd like to recognize a particular group of people that work for the city, that carry as much load for the city as anybody. And they are volunteer positions. They consequently get overlooked a lot. We spend a lot of time, energy, resources, and deliberation to make sure our salary and hourly personnel are adequately taken care of. But this particular group, I feel, has been neglected. And I would like to address that tonight. And that group is city council positions. I think they're still considered voluntary. And the volunteer personnel for the fire department.
Right.
I mean, I see where they were considered here. And personally, I think they deserve more. We've talked about it, a lot over the years, trying to retain volunteers, trying to encourage people to volunteer, and it's dicey. It's dicey. And the volunteer people in the fire department, they step up to the plate.
Yes, you do.
And here we are. This is, the amount that we're paying them here, or contributing, is not even close. And we've got a motion on the floor. And I would like to make a motion to address this. I won't vote for the budget as it stands because of this. And if we can deal with it now, that'd be great. And what my proposal is, the city council positions, again, like I say, these are positions that carry a lot of load
And they take
and a lot of
time.
responsibility.
Yes.
Anyway, I know it's just a gratuity, but nevertheless, I'd like to make the proposal that we, hang on to your seats here, we double the compensatory amount paid for council positions per meeting, and that's all it is per meeting. And with the volunteer fire department, also double what we're paying, affording them per meeting and per call out, per incident. And I know, double it, my gosh, look at the numbers we're
They're
talking
small
about here.
numbers.
I mean, it's pocket change, folks. It's not even close. but that's what I want to propose. And again, you have addressed the volunteer firefighters here with pocket change. And the city council positions have stayed where they're at forever,
Well, it's been the same in the last 10 years.
at least.
Do you know when it was
It's
last
been this
increased,
way
Larry?
for 25 years.
I don't know when it was last time.
Well, it's been this way since I was on the council, 25,
Then it's been a
almost
while.
30 years ago.
Right.
But
Is that
isn't this,
true for the-
isn't this a RCW that you get $45? I don't know, I mean, that's what other meetings you attend, you get $45. I mean, from the state, I get $45
Are
plus
you talking about the council pay or are you talking about the firefighters?
council pay, yeah. On the volunteer firemen, one thing, you know, I'll mention that, I think, I assume the city pays for the retirement. There's the board of volunteer firemen and reserve officers,
Yes.
and that's 60, well, it's gonna be raised, up to $90. And then the city either picks up half of it, or they pick all of it.
We pay all of it, it's $90.
Okay.
It's $90
We pay
right
all.
now.
Okay,
We
but
pay
I
out.
agree with you, Steve, yeah. I mean, I've been trying for years for the state to, hey, the volunteers really do a lot for their fire department. Why can't we come up with more of an incentive to retain them
Well,
and recruit them, yeah.
So, coming from a family of firemen, you know, that $25 per call, they get a call right now, and they're there till 5 AM. I mean, that's, obviously they don't do it for the money. What's that?
There's no additional cost.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's been nights I remember my dad, when our church burned down, that was midnight, and that was all the way till 8 o'clock next morning. You know, I know there's the downtown fire, I mean, that happened, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and they were there all night,
No, this is
you
pocket
know,
still.
yeah.
This is pocket change compared to what we asked them to do.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
it
it's
is.
way
It is
over
pocket
two.
change, yeah.
And
Some of the-
I also think we have the authority to adjust and to set our own compensatory amounts without the state interfering, without their blessing.
Okay, well, that I know, it'd be great if we could.
We can,
Okay,
we
well,
can.
I've always seen $45, no matter what committee you're on or whatever, and,
No, we have that authority.
oh, okay.
Believe me.
so I'll have to abstain from this because I volunteer myself. But I will say that most of the funds that the firefighters get typically go back into buying our own equipment, such as wild amp boots that are about $400. So, yes.
So like I say, I was going to address that later on in council business as a motion, but we've got a motion on the floor to accept the budget as it is, but as Larry has stated, it's a work
So-
in progress.
So, well, I'm willing to amend the motion, of course, but is that any budget issues with the fire department increasing that much? I know it's not a lot, but,
well, certainly it's always an issue. I can't say that it's not always an issue, but
okay.
you do have an amount of money that we don't know what that number is right now. We have to do some analysis
Okay.
on that.
So, yeah, no,
Do we have
yeah.
any gross estimate of the number of incidences that are called out to?
Usually up and around 200 plus or minus.
And how many personnel per call out in general?
Anywhere between the lowest 2 or 3 people to, I think we have, I don't know, don't look at me because I know it's gonna come after me for it if I give the wrong number.
Just throw
But,
it out,
I
ballpark,
think-
just trying to get.
Well, there's times when you have as many as 20 volunteers.
Yeah, well,
Large
if we
fires.
have I think the number of the most volunteers, if we were fully staffed, was about 35 members. But we're running right now, we're like at a 12 to 15 membership
That's sad.
and trying to keep,
So there's a lack of participation that's an issue
yeah,
as well.
trying to keep the numbers. But the good thing we have, I will say though, even though we have a small number of members, if we have like a structure fire, we can fill 3 fire trucks, 3 fire engines. Everybody responds, and so we can do the job with 3 full fire trucks. But yeah, usually 15 to 20 the most.
And if you want to stretch it out, or like that, stretch it out, well, yeah, you're gonna get a bigger number, it's gonna scare you.
Yeah, well, it's 60,000, but you're not gonna have 12 people called out 200 times a year, so
No.
60,000
No.
is not a scary number.
And that's if,
No, and
that's if
we've got
everybody
$7
shows
million
up.
budget here.
Yeah.
Right.
There's room.
So I guess, I mean, if we consider that friendly amendment, the other friendly amendment I would like to have the group talk about is a rate study for a water and sewer fund as one of the largest revenue source. Something we've talked about in the recent past, and challenges with updating the system and historically low rates, and looking at a possible source of revenue to help support things like that. But I think it would be good to have a rate study to inform where we're at, where we need to be as we look at those water and sewer improvements. And that's not to detract from this conversation at all, but to say there's areas where we can look at, just even small increases to help support things like this, because maintaining that volunteer fire crew, Andy, you know better than I, but I know some of those folks are probably getting to the point where they're not gonna do it anymore, but they have a lot of skill and experience that's pretty valuable and definitely needed, so being able to bring people on and keep that knowledge, pass that knowledge on forward is valuable.
Being on the board of volunteer firemen and reserve officers, there's a lot of them that are retiring early, very early, because they just can't, they don't want to deal with it. Of course, sometimes it's because maybe they moved, but then, yeah, they do volunteers, and I've been on this case for a long time, that we need to put more out. I could contact some of the agencies, well, let's say like the fire chiefs, and ask what other departments, how much do they pay their volunteer firemen when they go out on the call.
So Larry, just a question here on this, the fire chief, is that $500 on top of his pay?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're talking about just increasing the calls and the meetings and the trainings?
Just the
or you're-
volunteer personnel,
Okay,
just the volunteer.
so just like for the calls and the, okay,
In the meeting.
Right.
the meetings, okay.
And I've excluded the mayor, his position, because it's not really voluntary, so to speak, but it is. It's kind of either or.
Yeah.
But I believe the mayor's position or salary right now is about 3 times what it has been historically, even though it is less than what it was when you came on.
I don't know. I know what,
I know it's
What it
less
is now.
than when Mayor
it's not an
Siegfried
issue.
had the position.
And I would.
But it's still 3 times the
Yeah, let's-
historical amount. And that's why I didn't want you to feel left out.
No. I figured that it was exempt because of elections or something. But Larry, to make these amendments, we would want to do this early December, or you want to?
January.
Yeah, January, not December, sorry. Because there's a number of things that we need to have it laid out so everybody sees it and understands it more clearly. I think it's an excellent proposal or not.
Yeah,
As long as
Anyway.
everybody's on board, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll iron it out.
yeah. So do I just make the amendment to do that, or do we want to wait until January to, what should we do, Larry? I mean, I'll make the amendment, or, you know.
That's why
Put it in
that's
there.
big bucks.
Okay, I
If
make
you put it
the,
in there, it's Larry's job to figure out the numbers.
okay, so I will go along with the amendment to double the money for the volunteers on the calls
Okay,
and
so let me
Per
make sure.
meeting
per meeting
and call-outs.
and all call-outs.
Okay, so you're going from
And
20
then
to
also-
40?
20 to 40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for meetings.
Go to a couple more pages over, Andy. Keep going. Right there at the bottom of that. You'll see it says.
Okay, so the incident drill,
Oh,
so it'd go from 20 to 40,
And I would say the fire captain incident.
and the fire captain incident, to double that one also?
No,
Just, all Steve was
Just-
saying was the volunteer fire.
The bottom 4 rows, correct, of this table.
Well, so that, but if you double that to 40, and then the fire captains only get 25, and they're in a higher position.
That's
yeah,
right.
there you go, just the bottom 4.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay, so that would be 50 on the others?
Yeah,
And we,
okay.
we can address this later on, I believe we really should, as far as increasing at least the amount they're afforded for a call out.
Well, worst case scenario, there's 200 calls and all members attend at $60,000 is less than 1% of the budget.
There you go.
So,
Right.
I mean,
There's room.
we should be able to, and there's 200 call outs with all 12 volunteers there. That's not gonna happen.
That's the high
That's
water.
probably more than double what it's actually.
What is the average meeting, how many attend the meetings, you know, or?
It could be anywhere between 10 and 20. I mean, obviously during December, it's gonna be fewer around
Right.
Christmas. During the summer and during wildland season when we're gearing up for that, it's usually a better turnout.
Yeah, okay. No, that's good.
Okay, and then on the city council, doubling that, is that something we can do also, Larry, or is that something that
You
we
can
need to look
actually,
into?
you can, I think you can make that happen at something like this, but you cannot vote it in for yourself.
It would be
So
for
the only
next
time,
election.
the only time that it gets changed is when you leave office. So the next person that takes your position will get the increase in council member.
So if I'm on here for another 10 years, I won't get that?
No.
Really?
But it does encourage people to replace us, which
Hold
sounds
on. I
positive.
thought it,
Generate interest.
Larry, I thought it takes place after the next election. So if Andy was to run again and he gets voted in again,
It could be.
it takes place then. But us currently sitting here cannot
Right.
take that, right? Until, I think it's until the next election cycle.
I can double check that with MRSC.
Please do, because I know the legislature.
So should we wait on that part of it then, and maybe get more?
I would throw it in
More
there now.
information.
Hey,
Just
throw it in there
move
now.
forward and get people in here to replace us.
Okay, so,
The thing is the legislature, the state legislature, and the county commissioners, and at the federal level, they vote themselves raises on a regular basis.
But they have to wait until after the election, I think.
No,
No, I think so, because once you just can't give yourself a raise and then next month or whatever, you get that raise. You have to wait until, because that come up. I remember when last time they gave a raise, council members had to wait until after the election.
what council members?
No, I'm sorry, I mean
Legislature,
commissioners.
commissioners.
So I would say,
Okay, maybe so.
I would say throw it in the motion now, so
I'd
that
like to
either
look
we
at-
get it, or the next people to be elected get it, and they don't have to wait again. And then Larry can find out
Yeah.
when that is to
Well,
happen.
we just contact AWC,
Or MRSC.
you know, whatever, yeah.
I mean, we just got 2 new
Okay.
attorney contracts.
so I also amend that to double the council members' pay.
To 200, right?
Per month.
Per month.
It's doubled per meeting. It's $50 per meeting, yeah.
Right now, it's $100 per meeting.
So what?
No,
It's 50.
It's $50 a
I think your budget is on a monthly basis, maybe, Larry?
It's on a monthly basis, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, this is-
so it'd go from $100 a month, or, yeah, from
$100
$100
a month
to
to
$200.
$200 a month, yeah.
Or $50 per meeting, because we have 2 a month.
Yes.
Well, no, it'd be $100 a meeting then,
Yeah.
that's what it would be,
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Okay,
and then,
I think there's too many uncertainties. I think you'll be better off if it's laid out, maybe as 2 or 3 of you meet that are involved in the motion to lay it out so we don't suddenly run past something and not have it the way, this is the budget, so we want to make it as accurate as we can.
Well, I think Larry has enough information to do a little digging and.
I can make a report at the next council meeting and
Sure.
show the answer to the question.
All right.
okay, there we go.
Thank you.
And who seconded it? It was Lauren. Was Lauren? Or was it mine that seconded?
That was
it?
I
Rylan.
didn't
Yeah, it was-
second it.
well, so you seconded the original motion to accept?
Oh, the budget.
The budget.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I did the budget,
And
yeah.
you're okay with the
Yes.
amendments? Okay. So do we vote on it now, or?
Yes.
I feel like we're forgetting something, but,
Well, I think we need to, on on the motion, let me amend it a little bit. It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 1512 as amended in discussions during the council meeting of December 20th, which will be a part of the budget for the year 2022.
Sounds good.
All in
Sounds good.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, I will abstain.
Pardon?
I will abstain.
Sure. Okay. So the next item is report of officers. And we'll begin with Larry Bellamy, our city administrator, and then the...
I'm just gonna say Merry Christmas.
Easy way out.
Yes, that's all I would like to say.
Okay. We'll begin with Andy on council statements.
Okay, Merry Christmas to everyone, Happy New Year. As long as the weather holds out, I will not be here at the next meeting, but if it's bad weather, I'll be here. So, that's all I got.
Phil?
Well, I got a couple of things. First, thank you, Chief, and thanks for the police department. I know that there's been a lot going on with the schools, and you know, as a parent, we always are concerned, but I think we have a good police response to the things that have happened. I hope that every party involved gets the help they need and the support they need, because like I mentioned it, you know, we always hear it takes a community to raise a child. And I think we all need to do our part to make sure that we are raising the kids well here in Goldendale. That includes my kids and our friends' kids. And as a community, we need to make sure that whatever help either the school needs or parents need or the police department needs to help the kids, that needs to be a top priority, making sure that we're on top of it and being involved. And then Merry Christmas to everybody. I think we've done a lot of good this year. We've made a lot of progress. We've had great discussions. I'm excited for next year to bring in more discussions and back and forth. But I think as a city we have made huge, huge strides forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Mylan?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say and repeat, happy holidays for everyone, and next year I think we're going to have a very busy year.
Yeah, we will. Ellie?
Yeah, just Merry Christmas, everybody.
Lauren?
I guess I'll go back a little bit to the budget there and just, ask that we maybe put an RFP out to do that rate study so that the council and the mayor and our next city administrator, when working on that 2023 budget, has some really good informed information
That's
about
it.
how to proceed forward, especially with the improvements we're making with our wastewater treatment plant. So,
Absolutely.
and Merry Christmas.
Dave?
Hey, thanks, Mayor. Well, I wanted to send some thanks out to a few people out there working hard in the community, the postal workers. If you've noticed, probably when we get out of the meeting today, they're still out delivering mail. I mean, those guys are just working crazy overtime, and I really appreciate all the hard work. And if you get a chance, thank your local postal workers. They're working so hard, and the people that are plowing all our roads, we really appreciate that. My goal has been to make sure that the sidewalk in front of the store I work at stays shoveled. Sometimes I've forgotten about it, and I've had people say, hey, don't forget to shovel your sidewalk, because, that's if you have a business or you have a house, it's your responsibility to shovel that sidewalk, and I've been guilty of neglecting the sidewalk in front of the store a few times. So, but you gotta think of other people. There's people that really need that sidewalk to be clear, people in wheelchairs or handicapped or what have you, or people that just don't want to walk through a foot of snow on the sidewalk. I see people walking in the street to avoid having to walk through so much snow on sidewalks, and that could be a dangerous situation, having people walking in the street when it's dark and just because they don't wanna get their feet all wet walking in snow. So if we can remember to keep the sidewalks in front of our businesses and houses shoveled, it would really help people out that have to use those sidewalks that don't have cars or are handicapped. That's all I had, and Merry Christmas, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Steve?
Well, I'd like to wish everybody here and everybody in the community a very Merry Christmas and a great New Year. And I'd like to say how much of a privilege and an honor it is to serve the citizens of this community again in this capacity. I pretty much already covered everything I was going to.
Good.
As far as taking care of some kind of business. So glad to be back. Looking forward to next year. You're 100% right. We got a year coming at us like we've never seen.
We've just been through one we've never seen two.
Well, I would like to share your enthusiasm and optimism for this coming year, but
It's not gonna be
let's
pretty.
not let our guard down, because it's gonna get ugly. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm terribly wrong. But let's be prepared for some pretty serious stuff coming from the top down. Anyway.
Okay, it's the mayor's turn. Of course, I wish everybody a happy new year and a very Merry Christmas. It's a great part of the year, and there's been a tremendous amount of work by this council. It's fun to work with you. Everybody's headed in the right direction, and we work together in a really very satisfying and productive way with our city departments as well as our citizens. And I think this council has a great track record. The other thing that I want to remind you of, particularly Steve and the 4 that will be sworn in on the 3rd of January, is to look into the AWC training for newly elected members. I'm not sure, it's online. You don't get to go to Olympia. I used to love to go to Olympia. I took that course 2 or 3 times. But now it's online, and it's an easy thing to do, but it gives you pointers that you may not be aware of. And if anybody has trouble finding it or needing it, I'll get it to you. Just let me know.
Good idea, very informative.
That's one that I'll forward what I have from AWC. I don't know whether you get the AWC mailings that we get in City Hall, but I'll mail them to you so you're aware of the requirement and how we go about getting that registered. Even though it's online, you register for it. But there's no cost, so there's a cost the city covers it. So with that, we'll go to public comment. Anyone here for public comment? On the line or here in the council room? Hearing none, we need a proposal to go into executive session to cover union negotiations as well as property purchase proposal. The RCWs are noted there that apply in this executive session. Larry, do you have an estimate of the time? 6 hours?
Half an hour.
Half an hour.
That means an hour.
That means an hour. Okay, an hour.
And if elected, just be an hour and a half.
See, we can always finish early.
Or just dedicated.
That doesn't mean you have to
Okay,
use the whole
so I'll
hour.
make that motion.
Right. Just because you got 25 cents.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
I'll take a quick break.
Let's get that over with.
It's been moved to go into
Recording
executive session
stopped.
at 8:31 for 30 minutes.